Choice Hotels get you more of what you value. Comfort Inn, it's calling your name. Save on the stay. Oh, and free waffles are yours to claim. Book direct at choicehotels.com.
Hello and welcome to episode 317 of the Filmmakers Podcast. This is a podcast where we talk filmmaking, from indie film to studio films and everything in between. How to get them made, how to make them, and how to try not to
F it up.
In our very, very humble opinion. Today, I'm joined by two very special guests because we're doing a very special episode just for you. And we're going to do this once a month. That's the plan anyway. But first of all, I want to introduce you to our hosts, fellow hosts today. We have on Phil Hawkins. Hey Phil, how are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Yeah, very good.
Now, if you don't know, Phil is a writer and producer, but mainly a director of hundreds and hundreds of adverts, but also the director of feature films including The Butterfly Tattoo, Being Sold, which shot in 2 days, The Last Showing, Four Warriors, and his fan film Star Wars Origins, which is superb and is on YouTube. Go watch it. It's been critically acclaimed as an epic masterpiece. And his latest feature film, it's Universal's and Sky Movies' Prancer: A Christmas Tale. Phil Hawkins.
Hello. I would say I'm a bit tired this morning because I've been up doing a remote shoot since silly o'clock. but can't complain.
You can't complain. You can't.
So my head is definitely ready for what's about to come and doesn't involve any brain power whatsoever.
I know. That's the thing. We're now going proper tech support, filmmaking support, and me and you brains have to be switched on because our fellow host today is Stephen Follows. Hey, Stephen.
Hey, how's it going? I feel very... I haven't achieved anything this morning. If Phil's been out there doing remote shoots all around the world, I've had a cup of tea.
Right.
I mean, it's only 11 o'clock in the morning. It's just because of time zones. It's not that I'm being super efficient.
You're cheating. That's what you're doing.
You're cheating. So if you don't know, Stephen Follows. He's a very established data researcher in the film industry. His work has been featured in the New York Times, ladies and gentlemen, and the Times in the UK, and many more. And he runs the fabulous website, stephenfollows.com, where you can find pages and pages of filmmaking facts and figures. He's also taught at major film schools. His scriptwriting has won numerous awards, including the Virgin Media Shorts. He runs the very successful Show Me the Money podcast. He has also been nominated for a BAFTA award and longlisted for a BAFTA. And he's produced over 100 short films and 2 feature films called Baseline and The Grind. Welcome to the Filmmakers Podcast for the first time, but not the last, Stephen Follows. Hey, buddy.
Lovely to be here. It's been also we've known each other for a while and we bumped into each other all the time, and you keep saying you need to come on the pod. I'm like, yeah, definitely, and I mean it, and then it never happens because I'm doing something else or you're off doing a movie or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it feels like this is long overdue.
It is long overdue.
And it was cold hard cash.
Yes.
In an old school studio deal, we now own Stephen Follows on the podcast. That's it. Damn it. Can't work for any other studio.
Yeah, exactly. It's because we've paid him the big bucks. That's the difference.
Yeah, I was holding out. That's what it was. That's why I've held out to episode 300 and something.
Yeah, 300 and something, exactly. So I am Giles Alderson. I'm a writer, director and a producer. My latest directed films, Wolves of War and The Stranger in Our Bed, are on Sky and Amazon right now. And my latest produced movie, 3 Day Millionaire, is still in cinemas and showcase around the country, but you can see that now on Sky and Amazon. And we've just announced our US and Canada release, which will be on the 21st of February. How exciting.
Hey.
So, the format of this, our new strand, a new once-a-month episodes called The Business of Film Explained. And the purpose of these episodes is to dive deep into the facts and figures that we normally don't do. Normally we're talking to guests and we find out about their stories and their world, and often we might touch on facts, but we don't dive deep. And by having Stephen Follows on, we thought that is exactly what we could do to help you filmmakers understand what happens in the film industry from a data analyst viewpoint. That's the plan.
It's way more exciting than it sounds, guys. It's way more exciting than it sounds.
Well, it is, because I've been getting Stephen Follows' blogs and his pages of information for so long, and I've loved them, and I just think they're so important for filmmakers to understand what's happening in the industry and why you should look at this stuff and why it should influence you as a filmmaker. So the fact that we're sort of giving you this as well, I think is what's the word? Invaluable.
Yeah, and I think it's also important as a whole because, not many people, I think Stephen is just flying the flag single-handedly about collecting this kind of information, which is hugely important to the future of the industry, what we need to improve, what we're doing good at, what we're not doing so good at.
Yeah, they're not equal categories, are they?
No.
No. And also as filmmakers, we can get in our little bubble and feel very lonely and everyone's like outsiders. So when to look at some, cold hard stats that say, oh no, everyone is like me. We're all struggling and in this industry. I think it's very, very useful. So I know nothing about what I'm going to talk about. I might have heard some stuff off the grapevine. I'm literally going to be, a fresh pair of ears on these figures. So,
yes.
I'm excited.
I'm excited too. I'm buzzing, actually. I think this is going to be great. So the aim of this is to get some facts, figures, but really so that we can dive deep into all this and what we feel about it and hopefully what you feel about it. So we thought we'd tackle this with maybe a topic an episode, maybe two if we get round to it.
Well, see, one of the interesting things about the film industry is that we have this adage that no one knows anything, right? The William Goldberg quote. The thing is that quote, first of all, that's only half the quote. The full quote is no one knows anything. No one single person can know everything in the process. Nice. So we have taken that on as if like no one can know anything. Like we use it as permission to know nothing and be ignorant and safe. And actually, you're right. It's right in the sense we can't know everything, but you can know something. And we should check out what is possible. So let's be a bit more inquisitive as to how things have worked before and then feed that into our own journey. So every aspect of everything we're doing, we should check out what's been before we even then decide what we're going to do. So there's no aspect of filmmaking we shouldn't be inquisitive and curious about. So that sounds like a big mission, and that might take a while, but let's take that as our mission.
I like that. Phil, what do you think should be our first topic, though, that we should dive into here?
I have always been interested in knowing how many filmmakers, writers, producers go on and make a second film, because it's kind of deemed success, and it is success to a lot of people, maybe that even haven't made that first film or are holding out of that first film because they want to win everything. I don't like. Hopefully, we've got some answers because I'm very curious.
That sounds like a brilliant topic. Let's dive into that one. But we will be doing, like I say, more of these. So do get your questions in and ask us, because there's so many out there. There's so many questions. How do movies actually get made? How many people work on a film? What percentage of that is women? What percentage of that is from a different race, different background? That's really interesting. And I think this is what this part of the Filmmakers Podcast is going to be. All right. So that first question then, what percentage of directors, producers and writers make more than one feature film? Stephen, let's dive straight in with that then, in terms of the percentage.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's set the tone for this, because the thing is that one of the interesting things whenever I'm doing a project like this, I always have to pick apart the hidden subtext of what's going on within the question or within the framing. And here we have, and I agree with you, I would absolutely do this as well. We have sort of defined success as making another film, which is an assumption, and film specifically, whereas there are many other places to go. And also we have bought into this idea of like a first-time filmmaker. And there's lots of conversations with like investors and producers. It's like, oh, will you trust a first-time filmmaker? And there is a sort of non-stats question about whether it's best that your first film, you've made a film, so at least you've made one, and everyone thinks, oh, look, he or she didn't get that wrong. Or whether it's better that you wait until you can blow everyone away because your debut feature is a better story. Like it's hard to know. What I can tell you is, from having done the stats, we did. Bruce Nash, who runs the Numbers website, and I used to pair up 4 or 5 times a year to do articles for the American film market, and they let us study anything we wanted. And one of them we looked at was the how profitability for films changed, whether it was a first-time director or not. So here's my question to you two. Just take a guess. To what degree do you think, if any, have the fact that the director was the first-time director affected the likelihood of making money? Do you think first-time directors made more money than repeat directors, that made no difference, or that they made far less?
On a theatrical...
Yeah, this Well, it was the total amount of profit they made, but these were all films that had reached cinemas. So yeah, it's not just a sort of micro budget film that you shoot on your iPhone, which is totally valid from an art point of view, but that wouldn't have been involved because I don't think they're not commercial. They're not economic products. They're art. You know?
Yes,
I would guess that the second plus time filmmaker would make more money
by big degree, little degree. Like
I would say probably, and I honestly genuinely don't know the answer. I've not seen stats, so I would say. Because you're more likely to have a higher budget on a next film, that therefore they're wanting to make more money back. So I would say yes, there's a lot more to be made, except the kind of wonderkins that go out there and make a film, the Blair Witches of this world, which probably skew it the other way, and the Paranormal Activities skew it the other way.
Blair Witch ruins everything. That Paranormal Activity ruins all stats.
Take away those two things from all stats. So I that's my instinct. I don't know how right I am, though.
I interestingly think it's not, and for the exact reason that you said, Phil, which is you get a bit more money for your second feature. Now, having more money often means it's much harder to make the money back, and I reckon the statistics of someone making a third film after their second is much, much, much lower because exactly that reason. I think on the first film, you get a chance. People go, it's a first-time director. I hear this all the time from producers. Yeah, we'll give a chance to a first-time director. But a second-time director, they don't. They get judged a little bit on their first film and sometimes the stats. And obviously, if it's a huge smash like Blair Witch, then, yeah, you're going to make a second film, really. I really think it's very similar. I think the stats are really similar between your first film and the money it makes and your second film because of budget. That's my instinct.
See, I love this. This is so much fun because both you guys could be right in different senses. Obviously, there is an average.
We're both right. Yay!
Basically, Stephen, I'm right. That's the most important thing.
I said could be right. I'm being nice. Don't confuse that with me being right.
This is becoming a Christmas quiz again, isn't it?
I know. I need to get out of the competitive.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh my God, I've stumbled into something. I'm really sorry. Someone help.
Yeah,
he's the reigning champion, so there is that.
We're the worst two people to be competing against.
I am definitely going to play into this. I am definitely going to be asking you. And whenever you disagree, it's interesting. But no, both of you mentioned things that could completely make sense. Yeah, like you'll get more support in your second film, in theory, like on average. And also you might have a bigger budget, which might make it more stable. But you're also right, Giles, that the more money you spend, obviously the chance of profitability goes down, everything else being equal. Obviously, if you're making a better product, then it's different. But you're certainly going to be leaner on your first film. Like that doesn't seem like much of a stretch to say. The real truth at the end of the day is that first-time filmmakers are ever so slightly less likely to make money on their film, but to a point degree that it's just not worth. Like it is there in the stats, but it's a couple of percent. And so ultimately, first-time directors are not inherently worse bets than second time. If that's the only thing you know about them, obviously, the real answer is that their height doesn't matter, their eye color doesn't matter. What does matter is their talent, their hard work, their connections, the story. You know, it's just that it's a label that we use. Interestingly, this is just as an aside, but with producers, it's actually not only is it functionally irrelevant whether a producer has made a film before, sometimes if you look at the stats, actually it hurts. So if you're a first-time producer, you have ever so slightly a higher chance of making money on your first film than an experienced producer has on their next film.
No way.
Yeah, it's fascinating. And when we found this out, we went back to the AFM and said, "Hey, look, we found this out. Are you going to have a riot? Like, do you?" We're saying that experience in producing is a negative, and Jonathan, who ran it at the time, was great because he was like. He's such a good like film industry marketeer. He was like, a riot's great as long as they're buying tickets.
And so rioting.
Yeah, exactly. I was worried they wouldn't like it. He's like, I don't care if they don't like it.
That's really interesting. All these first time like producers getting their distribution reports right now, going, "Oh my God, at least it'll be better. At least I'll make a living on my next film."
Yes, but that's
I read it as a positive thing. I read it as like it was an open door. You've managed to find the negative framing of like it gets worse.
Sorry,
well, it's true because that first feature, as a producer, there's so much stuff to do with not only raising the money, doing all the paperwork, getting actually through making the film, but then all the deliverables and then doing all the paperwork within that and trying to get any money through the door and get that back from your distributors. That's a huge undertaking for anyone, let alone someone doing this on a feature film scale where it can blow up and be massive and you're dealing with all these problems. I think every producer out there right now who's about to make their second feature has gone, "Oh my God, really? It gets harder harder. I might not make any more money.
Well, all we're talking about is money here. So
yes,
that's what's
we are
interesting.
talking about money. You're right, not success.
So what happens here is in the film industry, we have to think about like incentives and feedback loops. And if you fail, whether artistically you make a terrible film or you lose money or whatever the criteria is that we're going to define failure in your first film, you don't get your artistic license revoked. Like, no, you don't lose your license. You don't. It's not like you're no longer allowed to make films.
Should you?
What happens is, yeah. Okay, that's out of my specialty.
I'm out of order. I don't mean it.
But yeah, it's not a protected profession, is it? Like a doctor, there's a doctor. You have to get in through accreditation, and if you do something really wrong, then you get to a panel and you lose your license. Film doesn't have that, and almost all the people that you work with, and certainly most of the investors and stuff, will be new each film. So really, what is the consequence of quote unquote failing? Nothing really. Like it may in some cases, in some places, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to build it from scratch anyway. Your second film, as you were saying earlier on, can be harder because you've used up all your favors in the first one. Yeah. Or it might be that it's just as easy or just as hard because you're using the same skills, or it might be that it's easier because you've got a bit of reputation. But at the end of the day, you're going to have to build it from nothing. No one's going to hand it to you. Maybe if you've done, like all these outliers always ruin everything. But like other than the 0.1% who've have things thrown at them, everyone's going to have to go out there and build it from scratch anyway. So failing, whatever you classify that as, isn't as bad as you'd think. And so that means that we don't, although filmmakers spend so much time pretending that they really want the film to make money, and there's no harm in that, and it would be great if the film did make money, really deep down we know that's not the motivation. Because if the film industry was motivated by money, we would see a very different industry.
Yes.
So I find it quite liberating actually, because it comes down to your hard work. So bringing this back to where we started, this is why I wanted to talk about this before we talked about the actual stats on second-time films, because I think when I used to jump straight into the conversation about second films, people would very quickly go to the idea that making a second film was A, the goal, and B, if they didn't, it was failure. And I think that's such an unhelpful and untrue framing, because what do you really want as a director? You want to live a life. You want to be able to pay for your family and your kids. You want to make art that you're proud of. You want to have an interesting life and have creative expression. And making a second film is not the way we measure any of those things.
I do like that, because I think, and I've always said this on the podcast, please just go out and make your film. Make it just however you can. With iPhone, with it's 20 quid or it's 2 million, just go do it, because then you'll learn, you become a better filmmaker. And there's so much pressure. I really believe this put on that first film has to be good. It has to win awards. Otherwise you'll never make another film in this industry again. Those days are gone. That does not exist. Yeah. If you've gone out there and made a film, you now know how to do it. That, to me, is a huge plus. I don't care if it's made money or not. I really don't as a producer. I care about you and your talent and your hard work and what you want to do with the next film. Okay, cool. You've been through the trenches. You've done it. Now I believe in you properly. I go, okay, well, if I had 250K, if I had 2 million, now I might put it into you. And I think that, for me, is really important. I love that attitude of going out there and doing it. I might be totally wrong, but that's how I feel. I like that.
No, I think that's right. I think the idea of having the permission to fail. Like, nobody sets out to make a bad film or to fail, of course. But it's liberating to know that failure isn't, in inverted commas, insert whatever you mean by that, isn't the end. And I think I've said this before, but Paul Greengrass, when he was a present chairman, insert name here, of Directors UK, and he's saying, like, directors these days are so obsessed with doing that first film and knocking it out of the park on the straight one. Like, where is the permission to fail? He's like, he's like, Paul Greengrass, I've made some pretty decent films, but also made a lot of terrible ones. And in terms of, like, I'm paraphrasing, but like, from his own, this is basically how he says it. It's like, if I had not earned the right, to make films, or learned the lessons I did at ITV Granada, making all that stuff, that he did, then he wouldn't have gone and made the Bourne films or gone and made, the amazing stuff. And because you don't do that as the first film. And, like, yes, there are the outliers. other stuff that just smash it and go straight out. But you cannot compare yourself to that, because most people are making film and learning from their experience. I certainly did, you know, and everything, and every single film going forward, you're always trying to make it a better film. To have that as a career to go through. You know?
Yeah.
But you're right.
So,
You also have something special with your first film or first films before you get known by anybody that you care about, is that you then lose and never get back again, which is that if you make a film and no one sees it, it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
If you make the Blair Witch Project, then the second film is a bad film, then you've got attention. So apathy is one of the most valuable spaces to learn. I mean, that's what I remember at film school. The films I was making did not matter. No one gave a fuck, and was very clear telling me that constantly. And that was helpful to experiment, to try, to learn. Like I was reading somewhere about people who the first time they go to Vegas, the worst thing that could happen to you is you win big.
Right. Yep.
That will ruin you for the rest of your life, because you will build neural pathways that Vegas equals money, and then 50 times after that you keep losing, but you still got that first hit.
Yes.
And so if I was to dream at someone's career, like if I was to, you know, say, okay, what's the perfect career for a director? I would want them to make a film that they're proud of but have notes on, that got some people interested, but got them in the room, that allowed them to apply to the scheme, the funding thing, the development money that would get them to the next stage, which is exactly what Greengrass is talking about, because that's what television often was. But I would not wish on anyone Paranormal Activity. I mean, they get the money as well. Well, actually, I'm sure, because of their film industry works, that they don't.
You're right, Stephen. The pressure, and this is what I was going to bring up as well, in terms of if your first film is a smash hit, it does win the BAFTAs, it does win an Oscar nom. The pressure to make the next film is ridiculous. It's suddenly now people are going, oh, it's from the director of, well, we're expecting something good from you. We've just chucked all this money at you. How are you not delivering? And then how hard it is from there, if that does bomb, to make a third film.
Yes, that's the narrative. See, this is the thing about the industry, is that what makes a second film work is the narrative you craft around you. And it's it's great if your film takes off and you get to say, I'm the hot new director. But if you're proven not to be, even though that's just as false as the fact that you were, like, yeah, you're right. Big film, first film did very well. Second film doesn't do very well by whatever standards people are using. That third film is now a lot harder. Whereas if you'd flipped the order of those two, if you'd made a forgettable, crappy film, and it was either literally forgotten or just embarrassing, but no one cares, then you made this amazing film. The third film would be so much easier, which is kind of crazy. But but anyway, let's go. So the number. So I'm really interested. Giles, do you know the number of films, the percentage of directors, that go on to make a second feature film?
Well, I don't know the exact figures, but we, on the Q&A tour for 3 Day Millionaire, we did talk about this, and we've mentioned it on the podcast, I think, quite a few times. I think you were on that, Phil, and we guessed that around 85% of people didn't go on to make a second film. I have a feeling it's slightly lower than that, but that's what we were saying, so that's why I want to debunk this, us just guessing, and get the actual sort of more facts around
Phil,
it.
What do you reckon? Do you reckon higher or lower?
Am I being an optimist or a pessimist?
Are you going to win the quiz, Phil?
I get the sense that you need the points here, so you're a little behind.
I would say it is higher.
Higher than 85%?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Why do you think that is? Just if that is the case, why? What's?
Well,
that is a pessimistic view.
To be honest, I think 85% we've used as a shorthand. So I probably, if you asked me honestly, the first thing I probably would have said that number. But I'm just thinking, like, if we're talking about theatrically released movies, which I guess that's what the
I see. Yeah, that is different stats.
That's very different because, because there are, I mean, look at Giles and I, how many feature films have we made that may not have qualified because it's not deemed a UK theatrical release.
Correct.
Now, is that any less or more valid in terms of, statistics? On that basis, I would say less people go on and make a second film.
Hey guys and gals, Giles here, jumping in to tell you about Q Scripts. Well, they're a script analysis service who provide detailed, constructive and professional reports on shorts, features and TV scripts. They work with both emerging talent aiming for a break in the industry as well as established writers looking to take their scripts and ideas to the next level. They have experienced readers with a track record at honing scripts into the best and most appealing version for production companies and other partners. And because you listen to the Filmmakers Podcast, you get 3 months membership for free for a limited time. So get there now. qscripts.com. Link is in the show notes. Easy. qscripts.com. Check them out.
Well, this is one of the rare situations where I actually get to say that the news is slightly better than you think it is, but only because not because it's good news, just because you guys are in a very pessimistic mood. So that's good.
This is a positive.
Yeah, exactly. It's not nearly as bad as you thought.
Good.
So what I did was, this was a study I did a few years ago. So everything I'm going to talk about on the pod there, we can put links and stuff, and you can read it on the website, on my website. And so I looked at about 500,000 people who had at least one credit across all the different jobs. So there's not that many directors. But this was over like a 20-year period. And so I was looking at kind of the really big picture, because that's what I like to do. I like to start with a really big picture, and then you get a really crude number, or at least a very broad number that's the average of everything. And then you start drilling down and starting to see where it's more useful. And this was looking at the number of people who had at least one credit within a particular job and then had another one afterwards. And for directors, it was about 67%. So about 2/3 of directors never made a second film. So they had one directing credit, but then a third of them had at least one more. Although that falls very quickly, in the sense that for directors, it was, if you say how many people made a third film, I think it was under 1 in 5, like under 20%.
Okay.
Wow. But I think it's so interesting whether you think that's optimistic or pessimistic. That my loose experience in talking to people about it is that if someone's never made a film before, they think it's really kind of bad or depressing, and they're like, oh wow, so 2/3 never do it again. God, that's terrible. You talk to anyone who's made a film and they're like, I can't believe it's so hard.
Yes.
I can't believe people are ever doing this ever again.
Yes.
This was so hard and so unrewarding.
Torturous and unrewarding.
Exactly.
Yeah, unrewarding.
And also because as we've alluded to already, like, not making another film is not synonymous with failure, because if you were then hired to make a Netflix series, which I think by anyone's definition would be success, if you wanted to direct and they hired you to direct 2 episodes of a well-funded series, like, that is, like, assuming that's what you want, but like, no one's going to go, oh, I'm really sorry to hear that, mate. Don't worry, it'll pick up. Like that. So, but that wouldn't show up here. And so I think then there's also jobs. So like, many people produce because nobody else will produce for them, or because they want to take control of their career. So when you see producers, which is a very, very similar number, very, very, very similar number, to directors, it's not failure. It's because they use that as their first film as a launching pad for themselves as a whatever, writer, director, performer. And then they've gone off and did that career. Right. And there are people who, I mean, like, I think it shows how, to some degree, open it is to make a film. Because I'm sure there are very few people who qualify as a lawyer or a doctor who don't survive a second year or something, whatever, because it's so hard to get there. And it's so, as a gatekeeper after gatekeeper. Whereas in film, you just go and do it. Like, I'm not making it sound easy, but it's not, you don't have to ask for anyone's permission. Yeah. So that would invariably mean that there are lots of people who go in without the intention to carry on, or who are a lot more sort of laissez-faire about whether they do more.
Yeah, that's interesting. I think you're right with that fact, is you don't need qualifications to go make a film. Anyone right now can pick up any kind of camera and go shoot something with no prior knowledge of making a film before. And they do it and they go, oh my God, this is horrendous and horrible. And I realize they don't want to do it. But like you say, in nursing, or if you're a doctor, you've spent how many years training to do this? Yeah, some might quit, but you've spent the time, you know what you're getting into. You've done that whole process. Whereas filmmaking, sometimes it's not. You haven't gone to film school. You haven't studied for so many years. You've literally picked up a camera and gone, hey, let's go make a feature film because you fancied it.
Which is great, isn't it?
Right?
But isn't that like something we want? Like, so that's again why it's so important to have that framing of, like, it's not failure not to make a second film at all. It's just, it's important to manage your expectations. But I think it's also important because I don't know if it's still the case, but certainly when I was at film school 20 years ago, there was this sense that once you made a feature, you were sort of in a different industry, or you'd broken through or something. There was some sort of popping a cherry. There was this moment where you'd enter something else. Yeah. And to some degree, maybe that was true in the 1980s when there were like 50 films made in the UK and there was a small number of people all on, in Soho that could make your career. Maybe that was true. But first of all, you'd have to be white, posh, and male. So, like, it's not like that was a good thing in any way. But also, like, it's just not true. Like, there isn't a transition. You don't go from one world to another. You're still you. And you making a short film or having a YouTube series or whatever, being a creator and making a feature film, there's no tangible difference in you don't get a different badge or enter a different room or whatever. So I just don't think it's that important.
You never make it to the inverted commas. How the hell do you make it?
Yeah.
Like it's a weird thing to think about.
You probably get asked as well this, Phil, a lot, and maybe you, Stephen. I get emails all the time going, "Hey, I want to be a writer director. How do I do it?" And I'm like, "Gee, that's such an open-ended question." I'm like, "How long do you want?" I've got 317 podcasts. There's something on there that will tell you some information about how to do it. But how do you even answer that in any kind of? That's an essay. That's a book. That's it is exactly like that.
Well, it depends whether they mean the noun or the verb. Because to be a writer in a verb sense means you open up and you start typing, right? And you can do it in your notes app on your phone. You're now writing. Congratulations.
Yes.
If you want to be a writer with a capital W, I mean, I think...
capital, I like that.
Yeah, the author, David Mitchell. Title. Yeah, exactly. David Mitchell, not the comedian, the novelist, he talks about the difference between being an author and a novelist. And I think he talks about being an author about being someone who really cares about the sentence structure and, that's a lovely word. Oh, that's a great thing. Oh, look at the thing. And then the novelist is someone who goes on the, TV shows and has to do the tour and, and so I imagine writing is just you creating with words, whereas being a writer might be getting industry recognition, be getting in the room. So you kind of have to split these two things and see that one fuels the other and vice versa. But what they're asking of you is to make them into a noun. And the answer is just go be a verb. Just go write.
Can you imagine getting that reply?
Go be a verb.
Yeah, that's why I don't say this, because it doesn't feel helpful. I think that's a helpful answer, but I also say stop being a noun, start being a verb.
Clever. Well, that's the thing. A lot of people, and herein is kind of what we're talking about, is like, there's a lot of people that say they're a filmmaker but haven't actually made a film, or I'm a director but now I'm a director, or come out of film school and they printed a Vistaprint business card that says director, and therefore, they're a director.
You can.
And you can, but
you're
not.
Are they not?
But you're not. It's not a capital D.
Until Stephen Follows sends you a little certificate with a little rosette on.
That'll be £10, please. Yeah.
But I think the reason why I was being Mr. Pessimist, and maybe this can be my new job title in the
Mr. Pessimist with a capital P,
Mr. Doom,
is because I think maybe this is a whole other stat to go into, but the amount of films that are made that get theatrical distribution, I think there's certain filmmakers probably listening to this right now going, either A, well, I've made 5, like these numbers don't work, or there's, people saying, hang on, you're saying this sounds positive, but I want a career making these films, and you're saying you've made 1 and I can't, and it's really hard to make the rest. But it's like, but that's because of the state of what we're in terms of distribution, the way things are released, and the inverted commas gatekeeping of that, and the lack of support for independent film distribution, especially in this country, which is why I like your stats, because then I can, when I get on my lofty soapbox, I can Google your website.
So go, here's some actual facts.
So that's why I was initially pessimistic. Let's not say I was wrong.
No,
but that's why
you weren't wrong. You get a point.
No,
I mean, I'm not giving him a point.
No, but I think that's why I was thinking it was so high, because of that.
I like that, Phil. You are right, because there's so many filmmakers right now who are distributing straight onto Amazon. They can do that themselves. You can make a film now and you can put it on Amazon or whatever platform, Vimeo, YouTube. You are still a filmmaker. You are still putting your product out there. That is fact. That is still happening. Just because it's not theatrical doesn't mean it's not officially released and you're not officially a director producer. They're just the stats we're working with. You mentioned there a minute ago about writers. But we haven't actually discussed screenwriters in this scenario as well. Do we have those specific stats as well in terms of screenwriters to do a second/third film?
And it's very similar to directors. So I looked at this even over a longer period of time. So looking back right to sort of from 1950 to the modern day, like it's still only like about 66% of writers have written. And then this would have been full writer credits. So, for example, writing credits, as you know, they're quite well regulated by the WGA, but there's lots of different types. And so I've quite often gone in and filtered them. So it wouldn't be like characters by or based on the book by. This would be people who I would use a slightly narrower definition than just their name was in the writing block. Yeah. But I have an interesting question for you guys. So, Phil, this is your chance to get Another point from Giles, and the first
You know
point
what?
from
I
me.
hate I've started this now.
Yeah.
Go on.
You do, but a little bit of you wants the points. So this is
A big bit.
You can quit
I really
anytime.
do.
I don't think you're
really
going to. So do you think over the last 70 years, so from 1950 to now, do you think that broadly it's been easier or harder to write a second film? So do you think that the number of writers who've written a second? So here's the exact criteria: percentage of movie screenwriters who had a second credit within the first 5 years of their first. So they had one credit, and then within 5 years later, what percentage had a second one? Do you think that's gone up or down over the last 70 years?
Oh, okay. Show my working. There's more films being made,
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's true. That's a massive factor.
and there's more writers.
Mm-hmm. That's
so, do I be Mr. Pessimist again?
Mr.
Dr. Doom, I think it was.
Capital P.
Doctor Doom. I would say it's easier. Let's say easier. Go on.
Okay, so you think
easier.
more people have had a second film
Yes.
within the first 5 years? What do you reckon, Giles?
Just to be different and to see who gets the points here, just for fun, I will say it's less. It's not. It can't be. I actually don't think it possibly can be because more films are getting made now. But still, that doesn't mean a screenwriter is going on to make a second, or they might have written it, but it's not necessarily come out. So there is those stats, but actually released. I'm going to say, I'm going to stick with more, but I think I'm wrong.
Unless, of course, it's option C, and it's
Option C, and they're exactly
No.
the
I'm not going to
same.
ask you trick questions because because I can trick you with the real questions. So I'm not even going to go through that extra effort. Well, I'm enjoying this immensely because I feel like we have created something in Phil's head that is going to live and grow for a long time. Because Giles is right again.
Stop it!
And he didn't even care.
Get a point. I didn't want it.
I know. Listen to this. He's getting points he doesn't even want.
I didn't need it. Winning by
blame an early start.
But again, we have brought up really interesting things in the figuring of this out.
Wow.
Yeah. So basically, in 1950, about half of writers that had one film wrote another one, and by the time it got down to like the 2010s, it was down to about 20%. Because this is within 5 years. So
because there's less films being made and there's more deemed successful writers.
Well,
so,
there are
like,
definitely
back then. No.
Well, there are more films being made now. Films are much easier to make, and in the last 20 years, we've seen maybe 4 or 5 time fold, increase in the number of films made, even the number of films released. But there are even more people coming in. So you guys identified that there's lots of factors coming in here. The number of films being made, number of writers coming in, and I think that what this reflects is something we have already talked about, which is it was much more of a closed shop. Mm-hmm. Maybe even going back to the 50s, there might still have been writers on salary, within the studio system. I'm not quite sure when for writers that started to fall apart, but it would have meant that once you're in, it would have meant more. Like having a writing credit, there would have been, although there were fewer jobs, there were even fewer writers that had the permission. And, like I said before, these were mainly posh, well-connected white men, and they were part of a club and they were allowed to make films. And once you'd made one, don't worry, chap, we'll allow you to make another because you're in one of the 4 rooms where that happens. And now this sort of decentralization, this sort of, I really don't like the word democratization because I don't think it's a democracy, but I do think it's easier to just do it. And so there's been and also writing as well. It's become, there are so many books and technologies that make it much more accessible. Whereas, being I was going to say a cinematographer, but actually now with iPhones and things, it is a lot easier to sort of get the end of the sellotape.
It is, but it doesn't mean it's any good. But
no, of course, but it's accessibility of starting.
Cinematographers are cringing when they talk about iPhones.
No, but there are tutorials and stuff like. So if you think about it, 1950, you want to work in any, pick a job randomly. Okay, makeup, you're going to need the materials, you're going to need training, whatever. Yeah. But like writing again, you'd be like, I don't know how it works. Whereas now you can go down for £5 and to a bookshop and buy Save the Cat, and it's not going to make you into the best writer in the world, but it's going to get you on a flow. And Final Draft is like $80. And then you've got
Celltext is pretty much free these days, isn't it? I think
exactly, or Word or whatever.
Yeah, Word.
The barrier.
Please don't send it on Word though, ever. Do not send your script.
I should
on
say
Word.
Highland because I listen to script notes.
Highland, there you go. Right.
We need to talk in a separate pod. I did do a huge project into like 12,000 scripts with Screencraft, where we looked at what programs people wrote in, and Microsoft Word came up a lot more than you'd think in sort of professional / semi-professional scripts. It wasn't the main program, but
of course it can't.
Anyway,
be. But people don't accept it that way. But anyway, we'll come back to that because that's
I wouldn't.
And was it Blair Witch and Paranormal Activity?
Yeah.
I like the idea that,
well, Jed Shepard wrote Host that way. You know, they just literally let's write idea down. So it was written on Word. Technically, it didn't end up that way, but that's what they wrote it on because it was an easier platform to just send it backwards and forwards at the time.
Also, Blair Witch did not have a script.
No,
People screams in wood, runs. But yeah, so it's much more open. So yeah, the odds on making a second film, just writing a second film, have gone down drastically. But also the opportunities to be a professional writer have gone up in other areas. So there was far less television, 1950, and all the different places. So you can be a professional writer and not be involved in a feature film. Whereas that would have been a lot harder. And so it's not so much that it's got better or worse per se. It's that it's just changed. It's like, it's a different thing now, isn't it?
Also on that, Stephen, I think writers potentially are paid less. And because there is a lot of scripts out there, someone can option your script for £1 or whatever. We make it because it's an indie film. We make it for very little money. Therefore, the writer has spent 3-4 years of their life writing this, getting paid very little. And the back end money, well, we all know it's very difficult to get any back end money, even if your film is a huge success. Therefore, if they've got a roof over their heads and families, to go and write another one and spend 2 more years writing it, you can understand that. Whereas back in the studio system, the 50s, 70s, 80s, it was a different beast. Whereas you're now you're getting a set wage necessarily to write a film. So I understand those stats now a little more. Now we've dug a little deeper. And that's why I think writers these days can go out there and succeed. Like you say, we're just doing feature film stats. Fascinating stats.
This episode is brought to you by Netflix's Remarkably Bright Creatures. What if a Pacific octopus held the key to a mystery that could heal your heart? Well, that's Tova's reality. An elderly widow working at an aquarium. Tova forms an unlikely friendship with the curmudgeonly Marcellus, whose remarkable intelligence leads her to a life-changing discovery. Remarkably Bright Creatures is now playing, only on Netflix.
Great. This is fun.
Is it though?
Now, before we...
the first time I got recognised, and not visually, but like when I was in Cannes in 2000 and must have been 14, or a year or so after I'd started doing the blog, they recognised my name actually. So basically, I was chatting to somebody in this cab thing, and we were just like 2 people chatting in front of the Volivons or whatever. And like then they looked at my name badge and they were like, "Oh, you're Stephen Follows!" Like it was the first time it happened, and he literally said, "Oh, you're Stephen Follows. I love your stuff. It's so depressing." it was one sentence, and I was like, "Wow, he is a reader. Clearly, he does read it."
Yeah,
he does. It is depressing, but it's depressing in a good way because I think we should know these facts. Hence, why I think we should do this more and more because this is good stuff. It's good to know what you're getting into.
I think it is. I think it's. I think if you're going in with your eyes open, knowing that, like, not expecting to win the Oscar and then get all the money on the next one and all the money, even going, oh, actually, maybe that's not going to happen. How am I going to pay my mortgage or support my kids or buy a pot noodle? It's like,
is that the order of priorities? Mortgage first, kids second, and then immediately pot noodle.
Feels the other way around, actually.
I was trying to cover all bases from like student to, because people here are going like, I'm a filmmaker, I don't have a mortgage. But yeah, because it's like, how do you diversify it, and or being open to diversifying that kind of income, and the fingers in pies and insert, cliches here. But like, I'm a commercials director. Like if you look at, if you've broken down all of my income, I've made 6 feature films. Probably, I would say maybe 3 of them maybe would be statistically on your, based on the parameters of what you might look for in terms of a tax credit or, BFI, that kind of thing.
Yeah.
I'd say probably 3, I'd say maybe even 2, that would show up on that. So that's a positive for people out there that, like, wait, those guys, Giles has made the Dare 7 times. Like,
yeah, that's the same with me. That out of the 10 features I've made on those stats of theatrical releases, I'd say that there's probably 3 in there. Yeah. The others are straight to streaming.
It's a tip of the iceberg, isn't it? That's all it is.
Yeah, it's just the tip of the iceberg.
But what I'm saying is, like, in terms of, if you look at my income streams, a percentage of income over my entire career, commercials would be massively higher than any film, that I've ever done. But I'm, deemed a X times feature filmmaker. But that's because I've diversified. I couldn't live the way I live and support my family and stuff just by making indie film. So those artists out there that are like, film is my high art, I'm going to knock it out of the park on my first film, I'm going to struggle for 20 years trying to, make that Oscar-winning movie, and selling sofas on telly is beneath me. You need to have another long look at your life and look at different ways of making money while you chase the dream, in inverted commas.
Totally. I mean, you guys can't see this, but he's wearing fur coat. He's got gold around him. He's in a no, but all jokes aside, I really, really like what you're saying, and I really like the framing of that, because the thing is, think about it the other way around. Do you really want the thing that is about self-expression and art to be the thing where you pay your mortgage? I don't, because I want to be able to walk out the room. I want to be able to say no. I don't want a conflict between this is right for the film and this is right for my kids, for feeding the pot noodles to my kids, presumably, which I'm sure is child abuse. But
we're all vegetarian. We don't do it.
but like you want to disconnect those things so that when they come to you with an advert you don't care about and they're not offering you enough money, you're like, no. Or they offer you a film where they're trying to make you something you don't want to make, and purely for the money. You're like, well, no, because a lot of money in film is nothing like a lot of money in adverts. So actually splitting these things and knowing what you're doing. Today I'm achieving this, rather than today I'm trying to have self-actualization and also financial success. For me, it makes it much more likely you'll achieve each of these things. Mm-hmm. So I think that's a successful portfolio career. That's how the directors, or all creatives I know that have succeeded, have done that. Very few make their money from their self-expression and from their art. And I don't wish that on anyone. That's horribly
complicated.
Hang on,
my sofas are my art.
Oh, sorry. Yeah, of course.
So I make films for extreme torture and,
you're just a sadist.
Character building.
One of mine was extreme torture, actually physically and on the screen. Yeah,
but I think that's important, because if I went back to my 18-year-old, 17-year-old self, who because I want to make movies since I was 10, and gone like, you're going to make adverts, and that's how you're going to make your money. And you will make film, but you're going to have to put a heck of a lot of effort and attention and hard work and not spend as much time on film as you really love to. I would be like, why do I want to do that? Like, I want to just make film, and that's okay when, you're 19 and you can live on 7p and and live in a student house, on pot noodles.
It's good to have a sponsor for this episode, isn't it?
Yes,
sorry,
exactly.
By pot noodles.
I'll be emailing them.
But yes, I think, I would have loved that, and I fell into commercials, and it was an absolute blessing, blessing. And I fell into commercials from doing narrative short films, and that enabled me to make more. So so they went hand in hand, and I feel that when I'm talking to filmmakers now, or you get the email saying, "How do I be the writer, the director?" It's like, well, by doing this, but also how are you going to do that thing? How are you going to live and survive and support this addiction?
Well, yeah, it goes back to what we were saying before. Like, it's crazy. It doesn't make any sense to do it. But then again, that's what self-expression is. That's what hobbies are. And I'm not suggesting filmmaking's purely a hobby for this, but that's going way too far, because it can also be a career. It can be a profession, all that sort of stuff. But it's not as clear as, you train as a lawyer and you earn your money from being a lawyer, and then you go and play golf at the weekends. It's a mix, and sometimes that's terrible because you're having to, two things you care about being conflicted. But broadly speaking, I love it. I love the idea that the blurring of the line between work and play is very vague. And I've often joked that I don't think I've had a deductible holiday in 10 years, because the places I want to go involve film festivals, involve teaching. People invite me to go teach in Malaysia, and I'm like, I'd love to go to Malaysia. But that's also work. And so I like that blurring. And I think that for me, my own personal choice is that it's not clear what's the hobby and what's the work is my sign of success. And I think it's the same with you, Phil, with film, where it's definitely not a hobby. It's not like, oh, it's what I waste my money on the side. Like someone might, play golf. But at the same time, it's like you said, you've managed to successfully hive it off from all the necessities of life and being, operating. And that's great. Like, I agree, the 17-year-old self wouldn't like it.
But I think it's a stage, because still my 17-year-old self is going, hey, still in there. He's going, hey, hang on. I still want the multi-million dollar directing checks and only ever to focus on film ever again. But even if
in the meantime.
In the meantime.
That they could happen, Phil. But that's the thing you're saying there. But the fact is, what you're doing right now, you are making films. You've just made a studio film. You're doing these commercials. But the chances of you now going, actually, I can make another studio film, I can make another one, and then suddenly don't do the commercials anymore, is pretty... It can be. It's literally there. I mean, it's that close. I mean, we don't know if these things are going to happen or not happen.
You've got the lottery tickets, haven't you?
You've got the lottery ticket, yeah. And you're actually got
my
numbers
butler's
on
holding it right now. You go.
Even though you didn't win the quiz, you know what I mean, today.
Oh, here we go. Knock him down.
You have
a few
that chance.
Yeah.
But and I think that's really important. And something that Stephen is saying is that you're making stuff constantly. You're creating constantly. Even with the adverts, you can play with a Steadicam. You can play with an angle. You can do. I'm going to shoot all this through a glass. You know what I mean? I'm going to shoot all this in underwater.
He gets directing. He understands what directing.
Exactly. Yeah.
No, but I mean, but yeah, it's a very, very valid and a lot. And the thing is like I would never ever say no or turn down commercials. Like I'm above them, even if I went off and made huge film. Joseph Kosinski on the last podcast,
director of Top Gun
a lot
Maverick.
of the unique camera lenses and kits that went into the planes came from doing car commercials or a car commercial, and they almost funded the first R&D of doing that. So they kind of go hand in hand. So
yeah.
anyway.
And it beats working in a bar where you can't be creative.
Well, yeah. It makes you a better filmmaker.
I think
by
that's
being
what we're
on
saying
set.
here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So it does change what you're doing. But I think what we've learned from this today is that don't worry about necessarily stats. If you want to be a filmmaker, you can go do it. Don't be depressed by things. Don't worry about what people say to you. The fact is, if you've got a good story and you've got some talent behind you, even if you don't, you can still go make a feature film. You can do that, and you can make a second one.
We can have a separate conversation in a future episode about whether talent matters or not. But let's come back. That's going to be at least another
really
hour.
Depressed about this whole thing.
Does talent matter?
Does talent matter? There's other things we want to talk about as well in the future of doing these as well. Shorts to features. What the facts and figures on someone going from a short to a feature. Do movies with better reviews make better features? Do they make more money? I love all that kind of stuff, and I think that's really important because we can all get burnt by reviews. We can all make a short film and go, how do I turn this into a feature? And I think those facts and figures will be fascinating as we move forward with these episodes that we are calling, until we can come up with a better title, The Business of Film Explained.
The Film Fact Deep Dive.
Film Data Crunch.
Film Data Crunch. Yeah.
I think the Pot Noodle Hour is the working title.
Stephen, I've got a challenge as well. I don't know whether this is even possible, but I've always been fascinated. And again, maybe it's a way of hopefully inspiring and lifting the gatekeeping, the drawbridge, that kind of thing, about class, and filmmaking and geographically, where people live or based or,
you mean class,
grow up.
not class.
No. Oh, here we go.
We say class.
Here we go.
Is that the answer you were looking for?
Yes, that's exactly the answer I was looking for. Thank you very much for coming, Stephen. That's great. Stevie. But yeah, I don't know whether that's something that, because, there is that whole thing of like, well, I need to be an unpaid intern, but to do that, I need to, I don't want to get into it now, but I think there's a barrier to entry that I think would be really interesting to know about. And I don't even know whether it's possible to find that out.
But yeah, it's a really good topic.
It'd be interesting to talk about.
It is, and there's a lot in there. I think it will be less stats heavy than some of the other things because it's so inferior to measure. But that doesn't mean, in fact, if anything, it becomes more important we talk about it, because the things that we can measure tend to be the things that we'll address. So, for example, there's been more progress on gender equality than there has been on sort of racial equality, because up until very recently, it's been very easy. Most people have publicly identified in a binary sense, not that they should, but they just have. And so through pronouns and things, we can do more data research into gender in the past. Whereas with race, it's much more complicated for many, many reasons. And so therefore it's easier to say, look how bad it is. Whereas, and class is even more ethereal, but is just as important, if not more important, because also a lot of these issues are, like, for example, race and class, certainly in the UK, are heavily linked because of just the unfair situation for so long. So yeah, let's do it in another episode, but I think it's a really, really important topic. I'm really glad you brought it up. And there are some things I can bring to it and things we could talk about. Definitely.
Love it. And if you've got a question, again, like I said at the start, if you've got a question for us during this tech support part of filmmaking, then do get in touch. The Filmmakers Podcast at gmail.com, or go on our Twitter, Filmmakers Pod, or Instagram, The Filmmakers Podcast, and let us know your questions about this, anything. And let's see if we can dive deep into it. We did have a listener question, but we don't really have time for it because we've gone deep into one topic.
I know.
Which is fantastic, which is what percentage of directors, producers and writers do make more than one feature. I hope you got a lot out of this. I hope this is fascinating for you. Let us know, because we want to do this more, and we are going to do it more. Once a month, we're going to be doing this. It's great. Stephen Follows, thank you so much. This has been brilliant, really fun.
Yeah, thank you, man. It's been good. It's been frustrating. It's been emotional. It's been empowering.
And to some degree, it's been pointless for you. But Giles has got a couple of points. But no, all jokes aside, thank you very much for inviting me on, and thank you very much for the work you do. This is why I do what I do. Like, the stats itself aren't actually what I'm into it for. They are a form of storytelling. They're a form of lighting things up so we can understand them. But then we need to talk about them, and then everyone needs to choose what they do with it. So this kind of conversation we've just had is exactly what I want, the end result I want. It's not the graph or the chart or anything like that. So yeah, keep the questions coming, and all the things, even the things that you don't know how, like exactly the way you framed it, Phil, is perfect. I don't know how you're going to do this, or I don't know if this is possible. Those questions are usually the more important ones, because the easy to answer ones, or the ones that are already answered out there, we can find out. But the ones where we get this sense that in that space there's a thing that might be important to, like, that's where we should be investigating and looking. And so from you guys, but also from the audience, something like that, please do send. It doesn't have to be a neat question. It can be, what about class? Like, that's a great question, and something that we can definitely spend 5 hours. If you're not British, this means nothing to you. But,
listen, go out there, make your films, everyone. Go do it. Hope this has been inspiring in any way. And if you're lucky enough to rise up and do well, it is your duty to send the elevator back down. We will see you next Tuesday, where we have in the next couple of months, we have some amazing guests for you. I'm going to read them out. We have Mark Jenkin, the director of Ennis Men. We have Aleem Khan, director of After Love. We have Peyton Reed, director of the new Ant-Man and the last Ant-Man as well. It looks like we might have William H. Macy coming on. Ben Caron, that was obviously, he's been on in the past with The Crown. He's just done Andor, and his latest film Shaper is coming out. And we have Todd Field, director of Tar, the Cate Blanchett and Mark Strong starring thriller. It's amazing. So that's all coming up for you, as well as more Stephen Follows. How bloody exciting for 2023. Phil Hawkins, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Stephen Follows, thank you.
Thank you so much, guys.
Take care, everyone. Bye-bye.
If you liked our episode today and want to support the Filmmakers Podcast for the future, check out our Patreon page. Patreon subscribers get ad-free episodes, exclusive bonus content, and more.